Welcome back. In answering a question from an audience member, Rand Paul talked about the party that he wants to be a member of and linked that to fundamental issues around justice and rights.
We also need to be the party of the entire Bill of Rights. I think when we become the party of the entire Bill of Rights, that all of a sudden new people will come to us. We've been the party of the Second Amendment. I think we still should be. But you know what? You need the Fourth Amendment to protect the Second Amendment. The Fourth Amendment says you have a right to privacy. Not literally, but that's what it means. It says the government can't come in your house. It says the government can't take your records without a warrant, without having suspicion, without having your name on a warrant. We need to defend that. What the president has been doing and what some Republicans have been complicit in is allowing all of your phone records to be collected. I think it's wrong and I think it ought to end. I think the government should mind their own business. The Sixth Amendment says you have a right to a trial by jury. You say, well, nobody's against that. Certainly nobody's against that. Well, the bottom line is we do have this problem in our country. In 2011, Congress passed a bill that says an American citizen can be indefinitely detained without a trial, without a lawyer. You say, certainly that can't be true. Well, I was debating this on the Senate floor with another senator, and I hate to name names, but he was from Arizona. So we're having this debate, and I was incredulous. I said, do you mean an American citizen could be detained forever without a trial and sent to Guantanamo Bay? And he said, yeah, if they're dangerous. But it sort of begs the question, who gets to decide who's dangerous and who's not? In fact, as we were having this debate, I was thinking of this guy named Richard Jewell. Richard Jewell was the guy everybody said was the Olympic bomber. It was about 15 years ago. And this was Centennial Park in Atlanta. And everybody said Richard Jewell did it. And the media all said he was guilty. It turned out, though, he didn't do it. He didn't have anything to do with it. But the first thought that went through my mind when I heard the senator saying, oh, we're just going to arbitrarily decide who's guilty and who's dangerous and just pluck them up, I said, my goodness, what if Richard Jewell had been a black man in the South in 1920? He might not have lived the rest of the day. Justice is about protecting minority rights. And people say, well, I'm not a minority. You know what? You can be a minority because of the color of your skin or the shade of your ideology. If you've ever had an unorthodox or minority thought, if you've ever said, oh, I want to teach my kids at home, or I'm an evangelical Christian, or I'm Jewish, or I'm Muslim, you could be a minority, or I'm an atheist. You could be a minority. The Constitution's about defending the rights of everybody. I want to end with a story that's also about the Sixth Amendment, because people don't get it, that this is one of the reasons people are unhappy in our country. The Sixth Amendment says you have a right to a trial by jury, but it also says you have the right to a speedy trial. Khalif Browder was a 16-year-old black kid in the Bronx. He was arrested and accused of a crime. He was sent to Rikers Island for 3 years. He was beaten, and who knows what else happened to him. The guards beat him, gangs beat him. He spent 2 years in solitary confinement without a trial. So I don't know if he was guilty or not. During that period of time, he tried to commit suicide a couple of times. Beaten by gangs, solitary confinement. He's 16 years old, 3 years in prison. He was never, ever tried. He was accused of a crime by somebody who wasn't even in the country legally, who fled, never gave testimony, and he never went to court, but he spent 3 years in prison. He finally did commit suicide about a month ago. That shouldn't happen in our country. And you think, well, why are these people unhappy? Why are people unhappy in our cities? Why are people protesting? Well, imagine if you're Khalif Browder's parents or his friends in high school. Imagine what it must be like to feel like we don't have justice in our country. Now, don't get me wrong. We have the greatest country on the planet. But we have to stand up and defend against too much government, against a government out of control. And what I would like to tell you, if you're interested at all in what I'm doing, is that when we become the people who stand up for the Sixth Amendment with the same fervor and the same passion that we stand up for the Second Amendment, then we're going to be the party that grows and brings new people into our party, That's when we're going to rock and roll to victory, and that's the party I want to be part of. Thank you for coming.
Take a few questions.
All right.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Capital Connections, your weekly access to politics and policy along the I-89 and I-91 corridors and how it impacts our region. If you have a comment or an idea for a future show, please email me. And please join us again at the same time next week for another edition of Capital Connections.